Before we jump into the first episode of Loki, I wanted to take a minute and talk about the character of MCU Loki and acknowledge some of the big first steps this show is taking to some very comic booky territory. And maybe why Loki was the perfect character to lead us into the new space. Um, First up, it's abundantly clear, even from this first episode, that the Loki series is continuing the trend that I've seen the other Disney Plus shows um, going for, which is being all about the definition, redefinition, and exploration of identity in each of our primary characters. Like Falcon and the Winter Soldier gave us Sam trying to decide who he wants to be and what is the quote right thing for him to be, which ultimately gave us Sam Wilson's Captain America. Bucky had the same problem, but much less overt and apparent. Bucky trying to figure out who and what Bucky Barnes is in a world without the Winter Soldier or Hydra or Steve Rogers, especially. Um, WandaVision, of course, gave us Wanda building up her own world to hide inside, uh, both from the painful aspects of the real world and hide from herself. That whole journey ends with Wanda telling Agatha, she doesn't need to be told who she is, and finally taking the last step and becoming the Scarlet Witch. Uh, sure, she actually did need to be told who she was, which was the Scarlet Witch, but still, it's a strong character moment, and a great redefinition of Wanda's identity. So we have a Scarlet Witch now, and Loki's like breaking and redefinition of who he is might be the most painful for that character in terms of the character being like broken down to nothing so he can begin rebuilding, and that much happens in the span of one fucking episode. So much happens in this first episode. um this is really a 45-minute character study of who MCU Loki is. The characters rolled out like a blueprint and hacked away at pretty mercilessly, actually. Obviously, we don't know who or what Loki's going to be or become by the end of this series, but he's definitely not going to be the Loki we've known up until this point in the MCU. To me, this series seems like it'll be for Loki what Ragnarok was for Thor. Asking the question, are you Loki, the god of Tesseracts, god of Infinity Stones, god of thrones, god of magic? No, these are the things that Loki's thought would bring him success and power and all these other things that he thought was important and these things that he thought were his. Um, he thought these things were his glorious purpose. Um, I'm very much looking forward to Loki realizing that these aren't what makes Loki strongest and the most dangerous. Um, Mischief, chaos, unpredictability, the kind of personification of a wild card. That's what Loki is. I really like that line from Gaiman's book of retellings of Norse mythology, Norse myths, where he says Loki's what makes the world dangerous, but he's also what makes the world interesting, and that's very, 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 very true. It's hard to, like it's a very concise way to sum up what the function of Loki's character is at its core. Anyway, um, without with that out of the way, Razor, we've had the opportunity to see Loki one or Loki Prime, from the whole character start to finish in the MCU. Um, he's done, and his character resolved pretty definitively. Um, how do you feel about the handling of the MCU Loki A?
Well, comics Loki has decades of having been like a one-dimensional, just an asshole. Like the kind of villain who sometimes revels in calling himself evil. You know how they say nobody thinks they're the bad guy, everybody thinks they're the main character of their own story?
Yes.
Well, Loki in the past has been the kind of character who is gleefully bad. Who is like, yes, I am your villain, Thor. I exist to hurt you. And
Yeah.
it
Very
makes
much
me
so.
laugh to be the kind of person I am.
Hmm.
And part of that is also because built into the Norse mythology that Marvel works from is the idea that these guys have sort of lived out their stories before, that Ragnarok happens and then they're all reincarnated and Ragnarok will happen again. They're stuck in a cycle, and Loki is the most self-aware of them. He knows their stories. So,
Yeah.
and that has been used to not just justify him being shallow and one-dimensional in classic comics, but also justify him taking a different route and having a redemption arc and becoming more dimensional in more modern stories. Uh,
Um. Go ahead.
there's been a lot of angles and takes on Loki, although a lot of the modern ones sort of came after Tom Hiddleston first played the role in Thor 1. So the movies have always sort of been the one to put the foot forward first of having Loki be not a straight up bad guy, to be more of a complicated back and forth character.
Um. That brought the question to me of what is Loki's like motivation? What is he about? And in the MCU, that's always been more. I think kind of more put up front and played with than as like overtly it has been in the comics a lot of the time. Even though
Yeah,
it
yeah.
definitely has been in the
I
comics.
would I would say his motivation in the comics is usually bitterness and spite. And it's just like like you look at his motivation in the movies and it's like, well, he just wants Odin's approval. Like he grew up as like the little brother and Thor was the one Odin was always sort of more encouraging of. And then Loki realized, "Oh, I'm adopted. That explains it." And the comics version of that is to never get over it and to just be angry from then on. And the movie version is more like, no, I still love and want to be loved by Odin and Frigga.
And
But
Thor. I
yeah,
do
and
like,
Thor.
especially this and but the other shows too, the Disney ones. They don't waste much time with this shit. Like they get stuff going really, really fast often.
I mean,
I like the so like the subtitle thing there telling us that we're back in 2012. I
Yes.
like the little animated, the actual like timeline graphic.
Yes. Yeah. I noticed that. You also notice his hair here and his hair in that previous scene. That shot directly was not the same. It's a thing. It's fine though. His hair here is not the same. It's fine. It's okay. Who cares?
It's close.
It's fine. It doesn't fucking matter.
I mean, it's slick back here, and it's like
It's
parted slightly off to the side in the new shot.
incidentally in the MCU. I like Loki more with a slightly shorter style than he had in when he died and all that shit. As it kept going longer as he was older and shit. I don't know.
I don't have like a strong preference, but I do prefer it longer.
I mean, and it doesn't look bad longer, really. I don't know. I think maybe I like it because it makes Loki look a little more metro. And that's and compared to other Vikings and all this shit around him, he sticks out more. This is green.
Well, so that is an interesting point about Loki the character, and relevant to this show. for a couple reasons. One is that so in classical Norse mythology,
Hmm.
one of the things that made Loki the cause of all the troubles stand out from the other Norse gods is that like the Norse pantheon was very much like a masculine dude bro pantheon, right?
Hmm.
Like all the morals of their stories are about manliness and stuff like that. Loki was always like more feminine than the other gods, like exemplified by the fact that sometimes he would do something like turn into a female horse and get
And
pregnant.
get pregnant. That's that's kind of a thing. It happens.
Yeah. So there's also the rather famous and lengthy story arc in which Loki was a woman in the comics for a
Hmm.
little while.
Wasn't it Sif's body?
He stole Sif's body.
Yeah. I love how he just runs over here immediately to the highest shit.
Yeah, he has to stand on the rock so that he's taller than them.
And he goes into this speech. You can tell he's rehearsed. Damn it. Okay.
Why does he not know Mongolian?
Let's not go get into. I mean, listen. They don't have the all tongue or those Godspeak, whatever they say in the MCU. Clearly, Thor just knows how to speak Groot. That's cool though.
Well, you know, I mean, I have to assume that they learn languages that they actually encounter, and that since the Norse gods, the Asgardians sometimes visited Europe and
They did,
America. That's why they know English and some other Earth languages, but
Yes.
I don't think the Norse gods have ever been to China.
I would prefer that they did like an all tongue or Godspeak type thing, like they do in the comics.
I would
But
imagine that they're supposed to have like a universal translator built into their clothes or something like that, you know, because
well, I mean, yeah, it's
Asgard is technologically advanced.
it's just like a Odin magic thing that they have in the comics, so they can hear everybody's prayers in different worlds and whatnot.
Maybe Loki's whatever, however the translator works. Maybe it got busted when the Avengers beat him up.
Maybe it did. Maybe when Hulk was playing with him, you know, like 5 minutes ago. Like it's important to keep in mind in this episode.
Yeah, he's literally just coming off getting beaten up by the Avengers, and then all this is happening.
By the way, that was a really cool shit she has there.
The time slowing stick.
Yeah, the time stick.
I think it's like what she says. You're moving at 1/16th speed, but you're feeling the pain in real time.
Yeah.
Which means it hurts 16 times longer than it would if you just hit him with a stick, a regular stick. That seems unnecessarily cruel to me for like a cop weapon.
Well, they don't seem that worried about humanitarianism.
No,
they seem most
guys,
worried about
TVA. We're setting up pretty fascistic.
This is the way the timeline's supposed to be. Period. Which is why throwing a character like Loki is interesting.
Hello, ma'am.
This guy's sick.
Can you at least tell me what it is?
It's the Tesseract. Be very careful with it.
Sounds dumb.
Sounds dumb.
This Fallout thing.
Yeah, there's a very strong like Fallout like 50s, 60s, 70s aesthetic.
Yeah, the 60s, 70s aesthetic is not subtle here. But it's heightened enough to where it's fucking cool. Even
it's
the walls
exceptionally strong. This is the brownest room I've ever seen in my life.
It is.
And that's saying a lot because this wood paneling is what I have in my home.
I was about to say, like, yeah.
This is a mistake.
I'm familiar with this wood paneling. All this shit. They did a good job.
Probably saying, this is a mistake. I shouldn't even be here.
Miss Minutes, Jurassic Park.
I'm Miss Minutes, and it's my job to catch you up before you stand trial for your crime.
They did this in Jurassic Park, you're right.
Yes, I know.
Settle in, sharpen your pencils, and check this.
Dino DNA.
Why is it always Southern accent?
I don't know. I mean, it's trust, or they seems in
each other for supremacy.
Non-threatening?
Nearly resulting in
Sweet?
a total destruction
Believable?
of
Charming? I don't fucking know.
everything.
Funny?
But then the all-knowing timekeepers
This
emerged.
the animation style they're going for here, like, obviously. And it's sick. It's good. Well done.
The sacred timeline. Now the timekeepers protect
So-
and
so one of
preserve
these
the
guys is
proper
totally
flow
Kang
of
the
time
Conqueror,
for
right?
everyone and everything.
You
But
tell me,
sometimes
dude. I don't
people
know.
like you veer off
You know,
the path the
I'm not an
timekeepers
expert on
chose.
all
We
the
call
cosmic
those
Marvel shit.
I mean-
Well, at all.
I mean,
Maybe
they
we
have
started an
blue
uprising,
faces.
or we're just late for
One of
work.
them's gotta be
Whatever it
Kang.
was, stepping
I
off
mean,
your path created
yeah.
a nexus event, which left unchecked could branch off into madness.
That's a thing
leading
from.
to another
We're hearing that Nexus word a lot
multiversal
too
war.
lately.
But don't worry. To make sure that doesn't happen, the timekeepers created the TVA and
So
all
if
its
there was a
incredible
multiverse,
workers.
it would be madness.
The
It would be.
TVA has
That-
stepped in to fix
That's-
your
that's,
mistake and set time back.
that
It's an
is the
interesting
word.
insight. You putting those two words together.
Indeed.
That might be something to keep in mind moving forward.
You must stand
Curious,
trial
isn't
for
it?
your offenses. So sit tight and we'll
Might
get
be
you
on
in
the
front of
quiz.
judge in no time. Just make sure you have your ticket and you'll be seen by the next available attendant. For all time. Always.
Timekeepers. The sacred timeline. Who actually believes this bunkum?
Ticket, sir.
That guy didn't give me a
Bunkum.
ticket. I tried to ask
That
for
is,
one.
that is
I tried
a
to ask that guy for a
strange
ticket.
word choice.
It is.
Very,
Jason,
very
you're erasing your
British
voice from me,
to
Buckethead.
say the word bunkum. I don't know that they
Get
say
fucked.
bunkum on Asgard.
Well, maybe 24 hours ago in Avengers 1, he did call Black Widow a mewling whim. It's not. Those aren't words that we use that often, especially the second one there. By the way, I really like the music in this thing. This show has really cool music.
It's kind of creepy.
Yes, it is kind of cool. But it's also like old analog synthy shit.
Yeah, yeah.
But not like not like synthwave shit though. I'm just better at words. Look, this guy.
I get what you're trying to say.
Do you? I hope so. 'Cause I can't say anything.
You think? It's him.
That tie is very skinny.
Yeah, stab wounds look consistent with the others.
Not stab wounds.
Positioning of the bodies indicates they didn't know what the hell hit them.
I have to say, this is
And reset charge.
the
Gone.
least
That's the sixth attack in the last
slapsticky make fun of himself
know of.
I have ever seen Owen Wilson be, which is to
Wait,
say
stand
not
down.
at all. Like
Stand down.
in every Owen Wilson movie, he's like the guy who will trip on something and land on his face and like, haha, look at what a goof I am.
Yeah, I don't
And
think
this
I don't
is-
think he says "wow" once.
Hey, yo.
Yeah, he doesn't say wow. I'm not gonna
There's
write
still
off
time.
The
Yeah.
possibility that he will say wow in a future episode.
Mhm.
I don't want to jump that gun. I'm just saying, like, this is not Shanghai Noon. Owen
No,
Wilson.
it's not. He's got.
This is-
Is his hair supposed to be gray? It's hard to tell.
Tu sais qui a fait ça?
To be clear, this is 1500s France, right? Is that what it said?
Yeah, that's what it
Okay.
said. It said like,
Everybody flip the fuck out! Oh my god!
it's not Mephisto.
Damn it! Don't tell Smoke Man.
Afraid of us. We're gonna take care of him.
It'll never be Mephisto.
I hope they keep fucking doing it though.
Watch, they will do a whole Ghost Rider show, multiple seasons, and
Please
never
do.
have Mephisto show up.
At the end, it's Azazel. He turns up.
Devil-bearing gifts. Go ahead and run this for sequence period and any hints of temporal aura.
You know we won't get anything.
Yeah, just give it a shot.
The branch is nearing red line. We need to go.
Okay.
What happens at the red line?
That's a good question.
Wash away at you.
I think that's a question they want us to be asking.
Set a reset charge.
Mephisto? I mean,
Sir, there's something you'll want.
there's no way they put that in there without knowing. Like, yeah, fucking Mephisto. This time is real.
Next case, please.
It's not Mephisto.
Laufeyson.
It's not Magneto either.
It's not Magneto, it's definitely not.
AKA Loki Laufeyson.
There's a lot of
is
doors
charged
in
with
this.
sequence
We haven't seen a
violation
Magneto
Some of
one
them
yet.
glowing
89.
yellow,
How do you
but
plead?
Magneto's not behind any of them.
Not yet.
Madam, a god doesn't plead. Look, this has been a very enjoyable pantomime, but I'd like to go home now.
Are you guilty or not guilty, sir?
Now,
Guilty
speaking
being
of
the god
Kang the
mischief.
Conqueror,
Yes. Guilty of
this
finding all
this
this
judge,
incredibly
I don't
tedious,
think they've
yes.
said her
Guilty
name
of
yet
a
this episode,
crime against the
but she
sacred
is in the
timeline.
credits.
Absolutely not. You have your own
Her name is
Oh,
Ravana,
really? And who should we have?
which is
I
Kang's
suspect
love
the
interest in the comics.
You see, I only came.
I want to use the time stone. What was her name?
Ravana.
Ravana, okay.
You may remember her from Earth's Mightiest Heroes, the cartoon. where she
Oh,
was,
yeah,
like-
okay.
Yeah.
That helped. Thanks.
She was like a princess, and the whole reason Kang was trying to change the future was because she was like being erased, and he was trying to preserve her.
But I mean, like, okay, it's not confirmed that it's the same source character for both of those two, is it, or is it?
Well, I
They
mean,
just have the same
I'm
name.
just saying her name is Ravana, so it's probably the MCU version of her.
Okay, and there's lots of Kangy shit going on in general. It's
Right, I mean,
something to keep in mind.
Is they travel
Time
through
is his
no doubt
thing.
in a last-ditch effort to stave off my ascent to God King.
That's quite an accusation.
These
But
subtitles,
believe me,
I
you can
forgot
smell
why I
the
turned them
cologne
off.
to Tony Stark.
But now I remember.
You speak of time criminals.
They're really out of
It's
sync.
they you should be after. Perhaps you could provide me with a task force and resources, and I could return and eliminate them for you.
We're not here to talk about the Avengers.
Oh no?
No. What they did was supposed to
What they
happen.
did was supposed
You
to happen. Does
escaping
that include
was not.
a Gamora escaping her timeline the way Loki escaped his?
Not supposed to happen.
Theoretically,
that's
or
allowed?
maybe they weren't considering
The
her an Avenger.
timekeepers.
Oh, the timekeepers.
But
Right.
probably the first
Well,
thing.
perhaps I should speak
I'm
to
just
these
wondering because I somehow doubt the TVA are
Gods
going to
to
show up
gods.
in Guardians 3.
I'm sorry, but they're quite busy
Oh, they
You're
are?
probably
I
right.
could be wrong.
What do they
Maybe
do?
they'll surprise
dictating
me.
the proper flow of time.
I see. Right, and then what do you do?
I like how shitty he's being.
Dictate the proper flow
Yeah,
of
you
time
know.
according to their dictations. How do you plead?
Guilty. Of this.
I'm assuming he's trying to morph. But I'm not sure.
Hang on. Everyone quiet.
He's got it's morphin time type shit. Get his fucking horny helmet, maybe.
The way he's like
Damn it, why would it work?
clenching his fists, I
Magic
feel like he's trying to
powers.
summon his
You're no
knives.
good
Okay,
in the
well.
TVA, Mr. Laufeyson. The court finds you
That would also
guilty
probably be
and a
functionally
sentence to be
handy right
reset.
now.
Next case, please.
Reset. What does that mean? What does that? Is it bad?
That's a
What does
good
it mean?
question.
But you ridiculous bureaucrats will not dictate how my story ends.
It's not your story, Mr. Laufeyson. It never was.
You have no idea what I'm capable of.
I think I might.
Are the TVA the first ones in the
Have an idea
MCU
of
to
what
call him
he's capable
Laufeyson?
of.
No.
Approach the bench.
Fuck. Someone else did. At least one other thing did, and he's called himself Laufeyson before.
I mean, that is his
Yeah, that was his dad.
logically his last name.
Mm-hmm.
Jason Lunch.
But I'm just trying to remember because I feel like it's been said in a movie before. but I
In
can't
Dark
remember.
World, he says it when I think he says it when he's introducing himself to Malekith.
Oh yeah, now I remember.
Yeah, because I mean, obviously, at that point, he was still very fuck Odin. I'm not anything with Odin. Whatever. I'm Loki
Yeah,
Laufeyson.
he was in his rebellious phase.
Yeah, he's being a bitch.
I feel like I'm always looking up to you. I like it.
Okay, here's a little. There you go. There's a little Owen Wilson for you. Get a little of that taste. I think his nose is a little fucked up.
And who are you?
Owen Wilson's nose?
Yeah, just a little bit.
It's
It feels like it's getting worse as he gets older. I don't know.
We'll start there.
Do you think maybe there's something wrong with Owen Wilson's nose?
Maybe yes. He might. I don't know. I'm not a doc.
Oh,
I'm not a doctor.
Wow.
Somebody look at that. Wow. Look at this crazy cool shit out here.
Home sweet home.
It's like Tomorrowland.
I thought there was no magic here.
There isn't.
So is this just the space future, or is this like a pocket dimension? I would love to know like more about the TVA.
I have to assume it's a pocket thing, since magic's not allowed here at all, including
Yeah, well,
items like the Tesseract.
It is, and unfortunately, so is all the paperwork. Good tinder for your fire, though. Come on.
This place is a nightmare.
That's another department. Now, that department I'll help you burn down.
Yeah, keep, there's a reference.
I'm Agent Mobius, by the way.
The verb, not the noun.
Are you taking me somewhere to kill me?
No, that's where you just were. I'm taking you someplace to talk.
Well, I don't like to talk.
But you do like to lie, which you just did. Because we both know you love to talk. Talky.
How long have you been here?
I don't know, it's hard to say. You know, time passes differently here in the TVA.
What does that mean?
You'll catch up.
So you're part of the TVA's courageous and dedicated workforce.
Even that logo, it just looks like super 70s.
Yep.
The most 70s ass logo
The
ever.
sacred timeline.
Correct.
it's
Is that funny?
it's got
The
style.
idea that your little club decides the fate of trillions of people across all of existence at the behest of 3 space lizards. Yes, it's funny. It's absurd.
I thought you didn't like to talk. After you.
For the record, this really does feel like a killing me kind of a room.
Not big on trust, are you?
Does it?
Trust is for children.
Looks like an interrogation room to
There's only
me.
one person you can trust.
Yourself? I like it.
I guess
Slap
so.
it on a t-shirt.
I don't.
If the TVA
Looks like a
truly
it looks like a
oversees all
lobby
of
of a
time,
building in the
how have I
70s.
never heard of you?
A
Well,
big
I mean, there's a table
bel-
and 2
You never
chairs.
needed
That's
to.
well, yeah.
usually,
Always lived within your set path.
I live within whatever
especially
path
because
I
he's in
choose.
Sure you do.
sort of
Okay,
a
come have a
police
seat.
station.
It is sort of.
Sort of environment.
I told you time moves different.
I like these 2 soda things that are here.
Sit down. Let's get into this.
I wonder what the label
Go on,
says.
have a seat.
We'll see it
On the
again. He
soda.
cracks one open and has a slurp.
It's clearly one of those
kill.
generic made up for TV brands.
What do you want from
Pasta.
me? Well, let's start with
Pasta.
a little cooperation.
Whatever.
Not my forte.
Really? Even when you're wooing someone powerful you intend to betray? Come on.
You don't know anything about me.
Maybe I'd like to learn. I specialize in the pursuit
I
of
don't know.
dangerous
There are scenarios
Like myself.
where like
No,
because if those were
particularly
2
dangerous
Cokes or 2 Pepsis on the
Please don't.
table, there's people who would be
Pussycat.
like, oh, the
I got a
product
set of
placement
questions for
is
you. You answer
unnecessary.
them honestly,
You're right.
and then maybe
And
I can
like
give you something you
sometimes
want.
I like seeing
And
like
we'll
a
get out of
real
here, right?
Coke or a real Pepsi because
So
it's
we'll start
like
there.
yes,
Should
those
you
are brands
return, what are you
exist in
gonna
the
do?
real world.
Mhm.
Nobody drinks
Finish what I
cola
started.
brand cola.
Yeah,
You're
I
fucking
mean,
Claim my
Yes.
throne.
made up because you
wanna
don't
be
have a product
king.
placement
I don't
deal
want-
brand.
I'm,
But
yeah.
but for the TVA's dimension, I imagine they'd have their own soda.
Yeah, like, they're not getting,
I
they're
don't
probably not
think
getting
they'd
Coke
have-
trucks here. And,
Yeah.
you know, whatever the thing. But, they still like soda, which, you know, is understandable. It might be
like
weird
soda.
if nobody here drank soda in the TVA.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to live in a dimension where there's no fucking soda.
Yeah, that's the thing. So, you know, it's they're checking the thing to make it feel real, but it, you know, it shouldn't be our versions of it. These collars are cool. Remember that collar that they gave Wanda that one time?
You want to be king?
I don't want to be. I was born to be.
No, but king of what exactly?
You wouldn't understand.
I do enjoy this aspect of the show very, very much.
Midgard, aka Earth.
I've asked myself,
Right
I've
now
ran
you're
through
the
these
king of
questions in my
Midgard,
brain a
then
lot.
what?
More than I care to actually admit. No one should spend as much.
Asgard,
My God, but still, I
lands,
did. Like, what's the?
space.
Come on.
Space. Space is big. That'd be a nice feather in your cap. Loki, the king of space.
Mock me if you dare.
No, I'm not. Honestly, I'm actually a fan. Yeah. And I guess I'm wondering, why does someone with so much range just want to rule?
I would have made it easy for them.
People like easy.
The first and most oppressive lie ever uttered was the Song of Freedom.
How's that one go?
For nearly every living thing, choice breeds shame and uncertainty and regret. There's a fork in every road, yet the wrong path always taken.
Good. Yeah. You said nearly every living thing, so I'm guessing you don't fall into that category.
The timekeepers have built quite the circus. And I see the clowns are playing their parts to perfection.
Big metaphor guy. I love it. Makes you sound super smart.
I am smart.
I am smart. I know.
Okay.
Okay. Okay.
It was a good pause.
What is this?
A sampling of your greatest hits, if I may.
That was like what, an hour and a half ago for him?
Yeah, for
Yeah.
him.
I'll have that drink now.
Some of that shit, yeah.
No. And I remember I was there. Anything else?
It's funny, for someone born to rule, you sure do lose a lot. Might even say it's in your nature.
You know, things didn't turn out so well for the last person who said that to me.
Oh yeah, Phil Coulson. Didn't the Avengers come together to literally avenge him by defeating you?
Little solace to a dead man.
Do you enjoy hurting people?
And you will notice
Making them
that this
feel
man who
small?
has information about
Making
all
them
of
feel
time
afraid?
Your games don't
does
frighten
not
me.
Making them feel
say that Phil
I
Coulson
know what I
survived
am.
that
Murderer?
stab.
He does not.
Of eyeballs, maybe. Look at that smile. You are enjoying that. Did you enjoy hurting them?
I don't have to play this game. I'm a god.
Of what? Again, mischief, right?
Yeah.
I don't see anything very mischievous about this.
No, I don't suppose you do.
Let's talk about your escapes. You're really good at doing awful things and then just getting away.
What can I say? I'm a mischievous scamp.
This is one of my favorites. I can't believe you were D.B. Cooper. Come on.
I was young and I lost a bet to Thor. Where was the TVA?
What exactly was the
Well, we were right
was the
there.
purpose of the bet?
Yeah, I have questions. I want to know.
Oh, so that had the timekeeper's seal of approval.
There's some fun shit there.
Oh, you lost. You have to steal money from Midgard.
Yeah, I don't really follow that one, but I would like
A
to.
little psychobabble. What is it that you think that you're really running from?
Enough. I know what this place is.
What is it?
It's an illusion. It's a cruel, elaborate trick conjured by the weak to inspire fear. A desperate attempt at control. Now you all parade about as if you're the divine arbiters of power in the universe.
We are.
You're not.
The bright lure of freedom diminishes your life's joy in a mad scramble for power.
Precisely.
Finally, that guy gets it.
Yeah. The verge of acquiring everything I am owed, and when
I
do it,
agree
because
with
I
me.
did it,
Yeah.
Not because it was supposed to happen.
In Agent Mobius's place here, I think he's going for like
It's just getting
hard
good.
truths that will lead to a realization.
something like that. A little bit of bad cop.
He's trying to force some character development. That's what this episode is all about.
He
It's
is.
about
That's your position.
He should
I
be
take the
reset.
opposite. You think everyone should be reset? I'm getting good stuff in there.
Lost another
it's
unit.
about getting Avengers 1 Loki to
Okay,
a point
Loki, I think
where
we can finish up
he
tomorrow
knows
and just
what
pick it up.
happened to Loki A, and this forces him to evolve from the villain he was at the end of Avengers 1 into a character who is ready to be the lead of the hero of a TV show.
What's your name?
Casey.
Give me the Tesseract or I'll gut you like a fish, Casey.
What's a fish?
How do you not know what a fish is?
I lived my entire life behind a desk.
But what difference does it make?
I want to know exactly what I'm being threatened with before I comply.
Death, Casey. Violent, painful death.
Okay, yeah. Okay, I comply. I comply. Comply. Jeez.
What? Infinity stones? How do you have these?
Oh, we actually got a lot of those. Yeah, some of the guys use them as paperweights. Some of them.
I definitely appreciate this moment. It's a good one. It's an important one, especially for him.
Yeah. I mean, this is
Even more than seeing his mom killed, this is
yeah, because this is the realization of just how powerful the TVA is. That like,
Is this the greatest power?
oh, Infinity Stones are even useless here.
and also how everyone that he's ever known ever has been chasing things that are, you know, not as valuable as they let on or they thought they were. Exactly. Including Thanos.
Yeah.
And it is a little bit cute that for the rest of this episode, he's clutching that Tesseract like a blankie or a doll or whatever, even after he realizes what's going on with it. I think it was a wise idea to get rid of Mobius for these scenes. I don't think that in the character he would take them as seriously if he was here directing and leading.
Yeah, he does need to be alone to emote the way he is. I don't think he would have wanted to. He probably would have tried to have some snappy line or deny what was on the screen.
And he might think more this is more of a plot, or he's trying to push me with whatever fake shit, but just seeing it play out itself is different. Especially at this point, Loki, where we're at here, like Avengers E1 type times and whatnot. It does seem to feel like Loki buys into a lot of the bullshit he's been taught, and he thinks like it's genuinely impossible someone like a Thanos could kill him, a god. Which is obviously stupid. But Loki might have been buying into that. But
yeah.
What's so funny?
Glorious purpose.
Now this bit coming up is the most satisfying part of the episode for me. Because I was getting real tired of this bitch.
Well, okay, yeah. But it's also important here. Loki pretty much just had his... In my opinion, I think that him watching all of that and learning what he has thus far has metaphorically taken that collar off of his brain that's held him back for the entirety of the MCU. Thinking that this is what's important, and this is what happens, and this is my motive in like seeking this kind of approval and doing this kind of things, and he just saw that all that is not necessary anymore. He doesn't need to seek his father's approval. He already has it. Thor, he doesn't need to have Thor's. He already has
a
it.
couple levels of catharsis here.
He doesn't need the fucking chasing stupid Tesseracts and Infinity Stones because they're not the keys to claiming whatever it is his success should be. And now he's more effective.
I can't go back, can I?
We'll hear more about that in a little bit.
Back to my timeline. I don't enjoy hurting people. I don't enjoy it. I do it because I have to, because I've had to.
Okay, explain that to me.
Because it's part of the illusion. It's the cruel, elaborate trick conjured by the weak to inspire fear.
The desperate play for control.
You do know yourself. A villain.
Fugitive variant's been killing our Minutemen.
And you need the god of mischief to help you stop them.
That's right.
Why me?
The variant we're hunting is you.
I beg your pardon?
So going back to how it's not Mephisto, I think the reason they went with the stained glass window with the devil horns is because Loki wears the horns.
He do.
He's got the headband thing.
He's also a shapeshifter, but he doesn't really need to be because it's still
true. But like
has Loki aesthetics there, like you said.
Time signature is early third millennium. Definitely anachronistic.
And speaking back on what I was saying before about the character of Loki being somewhat unmasculine in mythology, in contrast to the rest of the
Just prune it, let's bail.
the Norse ideal,
Set a charge.
Wait.
and how that's part of his
Someone's out there.
the juxtaposition is part of his being a villainous character to the rest of the Norse gods. There's been surprisingly a little bit of whining on the internet about about Marvel saying about this show that Loki is gender non-binary, which I don't know why you bitch about that, because it's true in the comics for decades now, and it's true in the actual mythology.
Yes, it is.
Going back millennia.
Huh? It is a.
He's literally always been that.
It is a thing.
And specifically, the reason that's relevant to the show is because they have cast multiple actors to play different versions of Loki, and we don't know which one or ones will be the villain Loki that the TV is hunting.
Yes.
But there is an actress for Loki in female form, and an actor for Loki as an older man.
Which
and it
makes it's like the least surprising thing in the world, if you are coming from like the rest of the material.
No, none of this is a surprise, even a little bit.
Yeah. It's like it would be odd if they didn't with the timeline hopping story here they're doing. Like, if they hadn't have done some of those things, it would have felt like a little bit of a missed opportunity to have some fun, to do some cool stuff.
Once again, one of the things Loki is most famous for, going back thousands of years in the real world, is turning into a female horse to have sex with a male horse
and have its baby,
and give birth to a horse.
that last part is really kind of seals the deal. Like, it's
right.
It's not an illusion. It's not just like him having a bad day.
Now
He ran away
I'm
as
a
that
little
horse
curious.
for a long
I
time.
think in myths, pregnancy can happen faster than normally, but
Sure.
I'm amused by the idea that he would stay a horse the entire term and give birth.
Yes, he did, and it's in Norse mythology. He leaves after the horse thing. He tempts the horse that the giant, the Jotun, is riding in a race. He becomes a hot, sexy female horse, and it makes the other dude's horse mess up in the race. But that horse goes and after Loki, and Loki keeps riding to take it off. They don't. The Asgardians don't see Loki for like months, maybe, or something like. It's been a long ass fucking time. They're like,
I would assume, like, I don't know,
it's a
horse
thing.
pregnancies are 9 months like human pregnancies are. I don't know.
I don't know either.
But
it's long enough,
let's
though.
assume that he decides to stay a horse for 9 months and give birth.
However long that is, yeah, like in Norse mythology,
he could change back
they
into
talked.
regular Loki anytime he wanted and not give it birth.
That it's an interesting thing, but that's also, I mean, Norse mythology had a lot of different motives, and like writing a comic book does, obviously. But no, it's a thing. Yeah, the horse ran off. They didn't see Loki, which was weird, or hear Loki, which was even weirder, for like months and months and months and months, or however long that it was. And finally, when he does come back, he's Loki. He's his normal form, but he's got this baby horse that follows him wherever he goes. and the Asgardians are like, we know never to talk about it when he's around. Just don't say anything about it. Everyone knows. He knows. We're not going to say anything. It's his little horse, and that's it. That's the end of the story.
The point is, Loki don't give a shit about being a girl or not. He's cool with it. He enjoys it sometimes.
And I mean, yes, especially MCU Loki has maybe more than one foot in the personality type of a hedonist of sorts. Denies himself nothing, that sort of thing. Not always, like that's not the only thing that he is, but he has some of that going, especially at different times and different versions of Loki. And it doesn't matter what form he's taking or whatever he's doing, like he cares about getting what he wants more than anything that like fucking gender preferences or even what he looks like, really. He'll become what he needs to get what he wants is the point there.
Indeed.
He doesn't give a fuck. And stuff about people being mad about whatever, like being gender non-binary or whatever, like that's people looking at the situation through the lens of themselves and their own knowledge and their own places in the world right now, and that and they're responding to that like through their own filters and whatnot, and that's obviously not the case for how the character is written and what they're doing. You're just seeing what you know.
Yeah, in a lot of cases with those internet complaints, it's not about whether or not it's accurate for Loki's character to be that way. They don't give a shit about that. They just are mad that a group of people that exists in the real world are getting more media.
Which, I mean, it's still the same thing, though. Like, if that's something that pisses you off, you're going to see these things and project that being pissed off onto it and be like, oh, that's another version of this. When that's not what it is. Loki's not doing this because it's PC or that this is like liberal whatever. I don't know what word. I don't know.
I don't know. I just don't
you know
feel
what I mean?
that
He's a
the lack of
shapeshifter.
nuance that really like pick your battles. You know, this is not the place for that.
But that's the whole point. Yeah, you would think that, like, not nuance, pick your battles, but people who doing this don't have that many battles in their brain to pick. They don't know about these other battles. They just know that these ones that piss them off the most and whatever. So you'd be like, no, listen, there's other things going on besides just the things that you know about. Oh, wait, so this is not a fight worth fighting for. No, this is a comic book. That's all. It's weird. Like,
Right.
yeah,
I just
like,
wanted
no,
to
I
bring
know.
it up because I want to bring up that we have knowledge of
Mhm.
casting and where future episodes of the show may go.
Yes, and if you're coming at all from any Loki source material, you know what it's about, and it's not about I don't know whatever fucking clickbait shit you might have seen lately.
I do find it interesting that the villain will also be a Loki.
Hmm. As it should, and that is an extremely important thing to take note of. After watching this a lot of times, I mean, not a lot, several times, um, you kind of get the vibe that the TVA here or whatever has a little bit of like a little bit of like an Order Realm vibe, and it's extremely interesting and important and specific, deliberate that they're not like Infinity Stones don't fucking matter. They're not afraid of Infinity Stones. They're not afraid of
Yeah,
gauntlets.
I
Whatever
mean
weapons
the
that Loki has
level
ever been after, it's not important to them.
the amount of power that the TVA appears to wield is almost like afterlifey in nature.
It
Like
is.
Loki calls himself a god, but this is like above that.
But all that being the case, the only thing that we know of them being afraid of is Loki. Because Loki is that's who they're chasing, and that's who's
Right.
killing
There is
their
a version
people.
of Loki out there that is staying
And
one step ahead, outsmarting them and managing to kill them.
and that's what's important here. What's important here is that it's not Loki with a fucking Infinity Stone. It's not Loki with a gauntlet. It's not Loki with some kind of MacGuffin. It's Loki. Loki is
And
the
it's
thing.
interesting. So far he's using, it would appear, some fairly mundane tricks. Like he got those guys at the end of the episode just by lighting oil on fire.
Yeah, it's a thing. Um, there's still plenty of questions we're gonna get into exactly how like those charge things work and what he's using them for to like reset timelines and whatnot. They haven't gone into.
Yeah,
They
yeah,
don't
it's
need to
interesting
yet.
that the grenades that reset the timeline, that we don't get to see them work on screen. Like at the beginning of the episode
It's
when
true. Yeah,
Loki
yeah,
is first arrested, we get a shot of his
yeah.
reaction
His
seeing
reaction.
one go off, but we don't see what it did.
Um, and that was
I'm guessing
obviously
it appears to vaporize everything.
and
Like
and
they are erasing those branching off timelines.
they are just like the Jurassic Park cartoon told us. Um, and and almost certainly we will get to see it ourselves at some point. But Loki did see it, and he did react pretty
That does
clearly.
theoretically mean that they're murdering billions of people every
Oh,
time they set one
absolutely.
of those off.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Because that's the only thing that's important to the TVA and the time, whatever you said, keepers, is just preserving this one timeline that they care about. Anything else is not important. It's not about people. It's not about items or objects or whatever. It's the only thing that's important is what they think is important. And so if life isn't important and items are important, if the only thing that's important is following the plan, then that's kind of what you care about. And that's how they are. Any means necessary to continue to follow the plan, which is exactly why you have that type of group against Loki.
Indeed.
Um,
Especially because like a big theme of Loki himself as a character that's definitely shown in this episode is that like I mean, we're talking about destiny versus free will, someone deciding your fate versus you having a choice.
yes. Hmm.
Loki does not like to be told what to do.
No, 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 no. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And I mean, a lot of people don't, but like Loki, especially, and it's one of the reasons why I wanted to say that thing before about Loki. It often not some of the times it's definitely been a thing referred to as a god of chaos as much as he is a god of mischief.
Right,
Um,
right.
and chaos is the thing that the TVA here is clearly most afraid of, more than fucking Infinity Stones and all this bullshit, and that's why they wanted to make sure that we understood that. And that is why they're so afraid of Loki, and why Loki is some Loki out there is pretty effective right now in what they're doing, and that's why Mobius is so trying to dig into this other Loki. If he digs into this one, maybe he can help. Maybe he can learn something to help him take down the one that's threatening them. And I don't, but I think that
Well, you know
could be
what's
different.
interesting is
But
that
go ahead.
the TVA time probably doesn't move linearly there. So this other Loki that is the bad guy Loki may have been created by something the TVA did that was similar to this episode once already. Like maybe Mobius is familiar with that other Loki as much as he is this Loki, you know?
Um, but he's not afraid of this Loki whatsoever. He calls him a pussycat. He's like whatever, and then he's tossing him around
Well,
or
right, but
whatever and
that's
whatnot.
because like
But there is a big difference. That's the point.
there
Yes.
must have been something to make that Loki competent enough to go up against them.
And
that just hasn't happened to this Loki yet.
I feel like the thing to make that,
So
especially
maybe what Mobius is trying to do is avoid this Loki becoming that Loki, you know?
yes, I think that's definitely the case. And to me, just looking at this as a fucking story and seeing what he's going to do, and especially having the context of already watching Loki A in its entirety play out, that whole timeline with him, um, that's why I feel like Mobius letting Loki know all of these things in this episode is what makes him so fucking effective in killing the TVA, being the only thing apparently that they can bring down the TVA, which is what they're afraid of with that other thing. Somehow, this other Loki is being successful at fucking with them, and he's the only thing that ever has. If you take MCU Loki and you're like, fucking stop trying to rule shit. That's not what you want. Stop trying to go for a fucking Tesseract. It does nothing for you. That's not you're more valuable than any of these other things you've ever chased in your entire life. Your parents' fucking approval, your brother's approval. They freed Loki from all of those motivations in this episode really quickly. He doesn't have to worry about getting anyone's approval because he has it. He knows that even though he had the Tesseract and he took down all this other shit, he still fucking died and just went out the holes or went out the whatever. You know what I mean? So that stuff is not the things Loki needs to be powerful. And that's what Mobius told him, which is makes it feel like Mobius created the threat, the threatening Loki. I don't know if he realizes it, and they may go in a different direction. But to me, that's what seems to be the case there. Loki doesn't need to be Loki doesn't need to be chasing the things that every other character in the universe is trying to chase. Because that's not where his strengths lie.
Right. Right.
In my opinion. I don't know. Obviously, this is speculation.
Indeed.
What is it? 6 episodes show? I think it's a 6 episode show.
I think it's going to be 6.
Yeah. And clearly this one was 51 minutes in its entirety, so a longer one, not like a WandaVision one. I think this is this was more interesting than I thought it would be. I thought it would be fun, at least. But it's ambitious enough to where like I was a little bit impressed with it. I was surprised.
Yeah. I think before the shows aired, I was most excited for Falcon and Winter Soldier just because it was the more straightforward and actiony premise.
Mm-hmm.
I think after this episode, I'm much more intrigued to see where things go.
And that's even just on a much more on like a specific smaller scale. The stuff that they did with Loki in this episode definitively means that he will never be like the Loki we saw previously, ever.
Right.
He doesn't need to do any of those things. That's he's already done it.
Yeah,
so at the very least,
like this episode was very effective in getting him caught up and past the arc that Loki A completed.
and filling in a lot of the weaknesses and flaws of him like sooner. He knows like that there's the insecurities that he's had with all this shit. Like
Yeah.
Odin thinks this of him. Thor thinks this of him. He doesn't need to go doing any shit to try to fuck with them to get that approval or whatever. Just stop. Focus on something else. And that's I mean, I've thought that about Loki since the beginning. That's what's holding him back. Not in a bad writing way though. Like this is just the way that they're writing the character, this version of Loki. But it will be it will be nice if they decide to go in that direction of um a more chaotic driven Loki Loki's not the Joker, but he's a
No.
little bit like the Joker, just a little bit. Um Accidentally or otherwise. That's just kind of how he works. And you
Sure.
don't Joker on a throne is weird.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
not what
And
he has
well,
this
I
much
mean,
fun doing.
the Joker is many times a character who has like the absence of a motivation or a goal.
He is, yeah. Yeah.
And really, the one thing that the Joker has in common with other characters of similar gimmicks, like the Riddler or Malekith or Loki, usually it's just the surface level of personality aspect of being someone who enjoys pranks and laughing at people. And that's pretty much it. But other than that, they are all completely separate characters.
Hey, and obviously Loki here, he has some things that are completely unjoker like entirely obviously lots of shit, but most importantly is connections and people that he
Yeah.
cares about. Um Extremely cares about because he has a family
Well, that's
even if he
sort
likes
of
them or doesn't
my
like them.
my biggest question. Once this series ends, is Loki going to be forever outside the timeline doing this TVA type stuff from now on, or is he going to end this show going back into the MCU proper and interact with Thor in the future?
I mean,
And that's what I'm curious to
that
see. And
seems the most somehow they'll somehow end up with that doing that. Maybe. I mean but that's just what I'm assuming. That would be the route they would eventually go. But
there's
who knows?
certainly some weird stuff in the trailer. For example, something that looked kind of like Black Widow
Yeah.
inside the world of the Soul Gem, maybe? Like after her death? So I guess Loki is going to my guess is get a look at a lot of other dimensions and other aspects of like just to put in perspective the level of power he's playing at now that he's outside the timeline with the TVA.
And I think the character, I think that's going to do the character in general a lot of good. I'm looking forward to seeing how that messes with him. Just in general, getting him out of the loop of the stuff that he's been involved in. Not that it's been bad, and it's no, I'm not saying that. And it hasn't been a bad version of Loki so far, but it's been a Loki that is capable of so much more than he's been doing in the movies.
Well,
He's,
yeah,
that's a
the
thing.
character is defined by his insecurities, and he's kind of been forced to deal with them in this episode.
He has, and he
so what
he
what
was
does it
too.
look like once you're past those weaknesses?
Right, exactly, yeah. And he was forced to deal with them in the main timeline, but over a huge, or not huge, a much longer period of time.
Yeah,
And
like a very, very gradual.
yeah, and in a way that like that was all that he accomplished. Just getting those motivations and whatnot satisfied, and that was it because he died, and that was all that
Yeah.
he was ever able to do. If you do that here, and then you're free to do whatever the fuck you want, then that's what to me is the most interesting to see where he's fucking gonna go, and he could go in a lot of different places. I don't know, and that's kind of part of the fun of it. I think that is that it. Wait, we have questions. I'm trying to think. If there was anything else, but I don't know. Oh, I thought I read somewhere that this show got picked up for a season 2 already. It was the only one that did.
Already?
I think it did. Like it makes sense. WandaVision can't really have a season 2.
Yeah, no, I mean they could do another Wanda thing, but they'd have to
Yeah,
change the title and premise.
right. And there's going to be a Cap 4, and they don't really need to do Falcon and Bucky again as a series.
Well, after Cap 4, they could do like Captain America
They
and the
could.
Winter Soldier
They
instead
could.
of Falcon and the Winter Soldier because that's what the title changed to in the last episode.
It did. Allegedly, that might be wrong. Maybe Google should
Well,
be
a lot of
consulted. But I thought I had read that it wasn't
like
visually said.
all I've seen, and it's true of every show so far, is them saying that if it's big enough and there's a call for another season, we could do one. Like we're not like bereft of ideas and ruling it out.
Yeah. And they've always done. That's always been the case with Marvel and MCU stuff. Like,
Yeah,
they can pivot it when shit happens, and they're pretty okay at it. But I mean, even just like looking at it basically, this show lends itself to a second season much easier than the other two. Much easier, because Loki doesn't have to get back to a position in the main story of the MCU.
He doesn't. Although I would like to see him interact with
I would
Thor.
too. Yes, well, yeah, absolutely. I would definitely love it. But it's also a thing where he could, at some point, but it's not a time limit at all, even remotely. He could go do shit for fucking hundreds of years if he wants to for his time.
I have some thoughts about like where I might like to see the show end up at the end of the season.
Okay.
But I'm gonna save them because it's sort of an answer to one of the questions we got. Do you want to do questions?
Oh yeah, we can just jump into questions.
We
Let's
got
do that.
questions.
Let's go for it. I love questions. Let's do questions. That sounded sarcastic, but it's true. I meant it.
It was a little dry.
I'm sorry. Listen, I really like questions.
Slightly monotonous.
I like them. We're good. Ask us questions, people.
We do genuinely like questions.
On YouTube or in the Discord, it's fine. Just fucking ask a question, and we'll maybe answer. Probably. Okay. What's the thing? Where are we at here? Where do they start?
Let's see. The questions start after my after my picture of Rainier Wolfcastle.
Fantastic. Okay. This question comes from Suze. Who the fuck? When do you think the other Loki variant? By the way, spoilers. We're doing this after the episode, so it shouldn't need to be said, but we're saying it anyway. When do you think the other Loki variant that's killing the Minutemen throughout time came from?
Well, as we kind of vaguely talked about, I have a theory that the bad Loki might be a future version of this Loki, but Mobius is trying to avoid that time loop and set him on a different path.
I mean, yeah, that's obviously that's a very plausible one, and one that would make a lot of sense for a lot of reasons. But because of the way that like things are with the way that time works in the MCU, and they've established like timelines don't have to like be like have started in the same place, and then branched out and do other things. Like they can kind of be weird and whatnot. They can
There's
they can
other
change.
ways they can go about it.
And when you have a character like Loki who is capable of living 10,000 years plus, I don't know, something like that though. Like
there's a lot of different like ways they could like imagine this that evil Loki is from a timeline where Thanos sent him to steal the Eye of Agamotto instead of the Tesseract or something like that. And so that Loki had access to time travel, and the TVA went after him. Things happened differently. Or maybe, who knows, from Loki's thousands of years lifespan, maybe there was a point in time, or maybe he's from the future, that stuff that hasn't even happened yet in the MCU.
Or maybe that was from the day after the DB Cooper thing. I mean, it's especially because it's Loki, yeah, and he's not limited to a certain age like normal people are, so it could be
I
just
mean, it's
anything.
interesting that they've cast for a female Loki and for an older Loki. Specifically, the older one is interesting to me because if you're already several thousand years old and you look like Tom Hiddleston, how old do you have to be to look like an old man?
Well, Odin was fucking old in the MCU.
Odin was old as fuck.
Olden. I didn't even mean to, but
Olden.
yep, that's what he was. Olden was like even in continuity, like they said, like he's fucking hanging on, and it seems like that's the case compared to the Marvel comics. Odin, like this Odin has been hanging on for way too fucking long, and he was old enough to be like weak and weary, and definitely far from Odin Prime. As compared to the comics Odin, where comics Odin could fuck up anyone, even though he's old as fuck. Like he was still perfectly capable of kicking anyone's ass, pretty much, almost anyone's ass. Period. The dude was fucking dude. And MCU Odin was pretty old and whatnot. Anyway, yeah, he could be old. Loki could be very old. Loki may not be old though. I want to see what they're gonna do. I don't fucking know, dude. That's what's fun.
Could be anything. Could be anything.
That's why,
literally
yeah,
anything at all.
that's why I'm so happy that they like got all of the other shit the other Loki did out of the way. So like it's like at some point he'll need to go do something to satisfy this thing over here or something like. No, it's all done. We don't have to do that. Sky's the limit, and you don't know nothing.
Right.
Okay. Uh, Thank you for the question, Suze. Um, where's
The next one would
Damashi?
be Merc1
Oh, wait a minute.
asks, do you suppose the TVA and the entities they serve are in any way connected to Infinity? Meaning not the Infinity Stones, but the character Infinity. One of the big abstract super space gods of the Marvel Comics universe. And has there been any other mention of the cosmic entities in the MCU? I believe
They mentioned the Living Tribunal, if that counts.
Yeah, the Living Tribunal is mentioned in Doctor Strange. Namely that there's a weapon named after him that Mordo uses while they're training. There is a mural in, I think it's Guardians of the Galaxy 1, in the dungeon where Star-Lord steals the orb, which has the Power Stone in it.
I'm very familiar.
The mural had like death, eternity, infinity, and a fourth one carved on it.
I don't remember that. I need to look at it.
I remember seeing it in an art book for the movie. It's not like super directly in frame at any point, and they don't like point it out in the dialogue. So
okay,
but
not surprising that he would have it.
And obviously, like the Celestials and the Eternals.
Yeah, we have seen some Celestials, but I don't know about Infinity specifically. You can. I'll leave the question of the capital I Infinity to you.
But I it seems to me that they're coming up with an original story for the Timekeepers and the establishment of the TVA. Because, like I said, I'm pretty sure one of them is Kang the Conqueror. And I suspect that they are developing a unique origin for Kang and these other two guys who are just like Kang.
Yeah, I mean, and that's that should kind of be what everyone is slightly expecting, because that's what they've done so far. We know that like Ego is not a Celestial, but
not in the comics.
No, that's not what a Celestial is.
He's
whatsoever.
He's just a sentient planet.
Mm-hmm.
Very powerful, sentient planet, and being a planet that is sentient is weird.
But that's it. That's all he is. He's like,
Yeah, yeah.
um, they've changed that. They've changed the. They changed some stuff with the Elders of the Universe Collector and Grandmaster. Some.
Well, I think like again, Collector and Grandmaster haven't been together on screen
No, they
yet,
haven't.
but they are. I think still brothers.
No, yeah. I think that much is still the same. But as far
Yeah.
as whatever they might have done, so but yes, they probably did change, and I think you're probably right about Kang. Um, and that's pretty okay in my opinion. It's just to
Well, Kang the
streamline things a little
Conqueror's
bit.
backstory has never been particularly clear. Partly because they just haven't gone that deep into it, and partly because his backstory sometimes changes because he's affected by paradoxes he's caused.
I thought it was some fucking and it might have just been one of them where he like initially he was a human dude.
Yeah, the only thing that I really know for sure about his backstory in the comics, Kang, is that he is the descendant of both Reed Richards and Doctor Doom. Like at some point, those two will have kids who get together, or their kids' kids, or their kids' kids' kids, whatever. Both of
Okay.
those guys are on his family tree.
Damn. Doom and Richards have a baby. Wow.
And so this future Doom Richards kid, he as a teenager he invents a time traveling suit of armor and poses as Iron Lad and forms the Young Avengers. And then he grows up to go back to ancient Egypt and rule as a pharaoh named was it
Not Apocalypse.
no, he's a rival of Apocalypse. Him and Apocalypse fight.
Mm-hmm.
I want to say it was Rama Tut or something like that, but that's
Sure.
I'm gonna look it up real quick.
I gotta say the just the vague idea possibly of this
That's it.
version.
It was Rama
Is that
Tut.
it? Okay, Ramatat. Yeah.
Yes.
The idea of him being one of these three whatevers.
And
I
then
don't
and
know.
then the Fantastic Four at some point went back in time and found out about Ramatut and kicked him off his throne. And then he became regular Kang the Conqueror and fought the Avengers several times. And there's also like an old man from his own future version of himself called Immortus. So Kang's been a lot of dudes.
Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't hate to see that his origin change to being one of these guys here. They're being
Yeah,
a little different.
that's the thing. There's actually like multiple Kangs. There's like because he keeps changing the timeline, and other
Yeah.
people keep changing the timeline because
Yeah.
there's so much fucking time travel in comics.
Mm-hmm.
Kang is subject to being Marty McFly as much as anyone else is, and so sometimes his own backstory changes.
It's a thing. I don't know, but and it's also part of the thing, like them saying the cosmic cube is an infinity stone. Like it is like a streamlining of a few different things and ideas and putting them all together.
Yeah.
Which I'm okay with, as long as it's something good and not something
Yeah,
shitty.
honestly, Kang is one of the more unnecessarily convoluted characters because he's tied to time travel, and time travel tends to do that to stories.
It does.
So I'm okay with the MCU doing whatever the hell they want with Kang the Conqueror,
And
as long as he still has like a blue face or mask, and he's related to time travel. That's really all you need.
and even with that story, if they did do that, they did streamline the thing, and he was one of these three timekeeper things. There's interesting things that they've already set up to like. Okay, how would that work? And other things that I would rather, other plot lines I would rather follow and see how they're going to make and unmake and what they're going to do with them than follow Kang as a fucking human, and then a dude over here, and then a pharaoh, and then he has to go undo that part and come over here and he gets kicked off a chair. Like, that's not bad. I'm not saying it's bad, but like,
Yeah.
The stuff that they said to where there's the sacred timeline, and like, well, what the fuck does that mean? Is this still going on? Is there only one of them really at like now, or is that like
Yeah,
whatever?
like
Questions.
Does the Marvel Cinematic Universe currently not have a multiverse? And does that mean that something's going to happen to the
Yeah.
TVA at the end of the show in order to allow there to be a multiverse?
That is my biggest prediction for this show. Yes, Loki and or Lokis are going to take down the fucking TVA, and they're not going to be able to do what they do anymore, which opens up the realms for fucking chaos, like they said, and creates the thing for like multiverse of madness type shit. And it's all fucking there's a battle world and fucking symbiote Spider-Man's punching aliens and shit. Like, like
Yeah.
that's where I see this series going. Loki's gonna stop that shit. There's not gonna be a sacred timeline.
We have another question from Suze. Any predictions on when where the Loki variant will go during the season? I know there looked like a scene with Black Widow on Vormir, but do you think there will be other times and places from the MCU that he'll go? Well, one of the scenes that I found most interesting in the trailer was it looked like Loki running for president, but it also kind of looked like that world was fucked. Like everybody's clothes were torn up, and the guys in his office with him were dressed like fucking Vikings.
Oh, okay, yeah. I know what you're talking about now. Yeah.
I'm amused to see what that's all about.
There was that one. Wasn't the one where there's like a really fucked up New York or some shit? And we just saw that with that
we
Kickstarter
did
thing.
see like a destroyed New York City, like it was outdoors and everything was fucking like dust and destroyed buildings.
And the Vormir thing is interesting too. Okay, well, 1 second, hang on. So, one thing I did want to point out earlier, I completely forgot about. Whenever the fucking Tesseract spat him out in Mongolia, did it say that it spat him out in like ancient Mongolia?
No,
it
just
current time
said Gobi Desert, Mongolia. I think the idea was because that scene happens immediately after he's picked up the Tesseract, and left Avengers Tower. So the idea is that he's just teleported himself to the other side of the world to escape.
That was the question. Like, okay,
yeah. The
is
Tesseract
it's
is
just
not
space
capable of time travel. It's
right?
A space zone.
So, and it's not, but maybe
no, that was
it's
that
not
was
the Doctor
2012
Who
Mongolia.
Tesseract. It's not space time. But yeah, that's fine. That works too. And it's funny thinking like, oh, that's what happened to Red Skull, huh? Damn. Except Red Skull survived.
Well, Red Skull was a human being trying to work the Tesseract with his bare hand.
He was.
And Loki is a god who obviously can touch it without getting fucked up. Much like how in Guardians 1, they established that the reason Peter Quill could handle the power, and even then he had to like share it with the other Guardians, is because he's Ego's son.
Right, but I mean, like but still, both tried to use Red Skull and Loki tried to use the Tesseract, and it just put them somewhere.
Yeah,
essentially, without their control. Did we answer that one? We did answer that one. Okay. Thanks, Sue's $500 sunglasses asked, do you think variant Loki will become a mainstay? If so, do you think he'll have any interactions with Thor?
We kind of already answered that one.
We kind of did.
I would like to see him unleashed on the wider MCU at the end of the show.
Yes,
in some form.
I don't think there's an option
as opposed to like what are the other options that the TVA sticks around and he becomes a permanent time cop, or that at the end of the show he is pruned to restore the normal flow of time.
No, I mean those are the options. That's not going to happen.
I think Tom Hiddleston will remain around in some form.
I don't think that Loki is going to work as a employee for any big company type thing.
No.
That seems odd. And also, I would also say it's a safe bet that Loki will interact with Thor again at some point. Because come on, it's a thing. But I mean that doesn't mean that it's going to be Thor A. But still,
Well,
it could be.
I
Hmm.
I think that if Tom Hiddleston shows up in, let's say, Thor: Love and Thunder at all, it'll be the end credits stinger.
Yes, I don't see him being like a regular like type thing that he has been so far in the Thor movies. Like he's
Yeah,
just
no.
there in the ongoing plot. I don't think that's the case. Which is okay because you could have Thor stories that don't have Loki in it. And that's cool, and it makes it cooler whenever he does pop back up.
Sure.
Yeah. So
Another question
yes.
we also sort of touched on. Shad asks, "Do you think it's all just a red herring, and this is really leading up to Kang?"
Well,
kind of. I don't think it's a red herring. I mean, I think
yeah.
that
It is Kang.
Loki versus Loki will be the central conflict.
Yes. Yeah.
But I also think by the end of the season, Kang will be set up. Like either because the TVA gets its shit wrecked and now there's a multiverse, and Kang is salty about it, or it'll turn out that Kang was the real villain all along. But in a way where it's like MK1 to MK2, where like Loki is the season villain, but Kang set it up somehow, and now the next problem is Kang,
which is
in like a future season or another show or movie.
Yes. It's definitely not like anything that's certain or whatever, but I would be highly surprised if like
And to be fair, we could also be 100% wrong.
Yeah.
The timekeepers seen in this episode could be the only hint of Kang we get the whole season. It could be like Mephisto not showing up in WandaVision.
Yeah. And I wouldn't be surprised with that at all, and especially because I think the plot threads that are central that we're already following are very interesting and juicy. It does not, and they don't really need more build up or support really to follow that
Certainly.
one through.
I do want to put out there that the rumor exists that Kang will be the villain of Ant-Man and Wasp 3.
Okay, I mean,
which could
yeah.
kind of make sense because Ant-Man's the quantum realm is the means the Avengers use for time travel.
It is.
So Ant-Man is tied to time travel now.
I could be completely wrong. I would be surprised though, in my opinion. I'd be very surprised if this season ends with like where it is like a Loki versus Loki situation. I think that they'll team up. And they'll take down the TVA. I don't think that anything they're doing with Loki is ever the TVA is going to work in their favor.
I have to admit, outside of Agent Mobius, the TVA does seem to be a villainous thing.
Oh yes, absolutely, certainly. Villainous in the sense of
they're clearly,
unseen fascism and
there's
control.
some Orwellian elements to it, and obviously nobody likes being told that someone else is deciding your destiny.
It's and that's the whole point of him doing the whole like he did the monologue about freedom being the why that everyone wanted to do, but like they were saying, Loki was a part of that as much as everyone else is, and they just didn't realize it. And TVA's been pulling the fucking things, and we are the United States of America, and we are about freedom. So it's probably going to be a story about establishing some kind of freedom.
Right.
Via chaos or entitlement or whatever it is, we're going to get it.
Loki embodies the American spirit.
He does. It's going to be fucking fantastic. Loki is going to save us and make time great again. I would. That's enough to hook me in, though. If that was actually what they said, okay, cool.
Yeah, make time great again.
Let's go.
That's a good tagline.
Let's do it. Uh, did we answer all of Shad's?
Yeah. Do
Okay.
you want me to read your question that you asked yourself?
I think I should read the question and let you answer it.
Okay.
That seems more logical since I did ask the question.
Be my
Um,
guest.
what are the odds that someone, probably Loki, will find a Thanos in some timeline and beat his ass with one of those TVA time batons out of pure petty spite and stuff?
While that would be amusing to see, I highly doubt that they're gonna get Josh Brolin in this show.
Do you have to get Josh Brolin?
I feel like it would be weird if he had no dialogue.
Would it though? It's just Loki. Loki basically doing what he was doing with that chick with the fucking. He was scratching the pad and fucking around with her.
Sure.
Loki just drops in from the back somewhere and starts beating the shit out of him. And Loki's. I mean, Thanos
It
can't
would
do
be
anything. He's fucked up.
it would be indulgent, and there's certainly room for some indulgence.
I think Loki
I'm not
enjoys
saying
indulging
indulgence
himself,
is
sir.
inherently bad. I'm just saying it would be indulgent.
I think Loki might indulge himself. Is all I'm saying. That dude did fucking kill him. Fuck that guy. Okay. Good answer. Thanks, Jango. $500 sunglasses ask. Jango, everything that Loki is in involves someone disintegrating or melting.
That's a statement,
I
not a
don't.
question.
Yes,
It's also true, I'm pretty sure.
it is. And it's one of those things that made me kind of start thinking about the thing that I said about how this show is going to be about Loki and or Lokis taking down the TVA. He says the thing there when they go to the thing. He's like, "I'm gonna burn this place to the ground," and we see who we know is now another Loki burning fucking TVA members. They're dead. And that's not something that's new for Loki to say in terms of what he does and what he likes to do. Even though he may be talking like, I'm going to bring this place down, I'm going to say I'll burn it down, but it doesn't have to be a literal thing. But I think that's what's going to happen. And by the end of the end of the series or whatever. I think that's the point there. Is it disintegrating or melting? That's not quite what you were asking, but it's kind of what you were asking, and that's how I'm going to interpret the question, even though it wasn't a question at all.
No, I think that's it for the questions. I think
Oh
we read
shit!
all the questions.
Damn it!
Because all the rest is just people commenting on the melting.
Melting. Did you enjoy the
Temp
melting?
apparently doesn't want to watch things where people melt.
Temp doesn't. Is that what he said?
It would appear that he appreciated being warned that people melt in the show.
Oh.
Which makes it sounds like he wants to avoid the melting.
Oh, so like a
To
trigger warning.
be fair, it wasn't melting
Yeah.
in the show. It was disintegrating. It's the
it wasn't a Ragnarok thing.
Everything that Loki's in involves someone disintegrating or melting. Someone melted in Ragnarok. Someone disintegrates in this. Different.
Yes, it is. The melting was gross. Was more gross in my opinion.
The Grandmaster literally calls it the melt stick.
He does call it the melt stick. And I mean, the guy does literally become a fluid that is left on the floor. So
the weirdest thing about that scene is that Thor shouts, "Oh my god." Which seems like a weird statement for a god to say.
Okay, you're right. But on the other hand, it's not weird from a Viking battle philosophy thing to say. Like, just kill him and move on with your bullshit. Like, this is a crazy. You know how much work you did to create this device that's gonna slowly turn this guy into fucking Nickelodeon slime? Like, there's just so much involved in this shit that you're enjoying the suffering process. I'm like, yeah, it's a thing.
He was a criminal, and he was being pardoned.
He was
from life.
It's exactly what fucking happened. He was stepping in it. It had a smell. Gross, dude. All this shit. I agree with Thor. That's all for the questions, huh? Well, okay. Is there any more thoughts that you had?
I think we've pretty thoroughly covered it.
I think we did. Um,
I'm looking forward to next episode.
very much on Wednesdays
I'm also
now.
I'm also looking forward to the episode of episodes that covers the last episode of Fucky.
I'm looking forward to that
Is that
too.
going up,
Yeah,
sir?
yeah, it's going up. I'm rubbing my mouse cursor on it right now. I literally am. It's sitting here on my desktop.
Excellent.
I need to put it up on the channel though. It's going up, and then this one's going up immediately. Like maybe I'll do them at the same time because this one's not taking any. Maybe I won't edit that thing from earlier. I'm definitely not editing this out. Be
Don't
talking
you
about the
don't
process.
you have to do the thing where you make the footage look weird so
Oh
the
yeah, yeah, yeah. I
algorithm
have to do
doesn't
that.
block
I
us?
already did that with the Falcon one, so I might have to do that with the. I probably
No, but
will.
I mean for Loki.
Yes, for Loki. Yeah, you're right. I'll have to do
So you
that.
do
I forgot
actually have
about
some
that.
editing to do.
Shit. You know how much work that is? That's more work than I ever
Do you
thought
know
that
what?
it would
I
take.
wonder if it's even worth it. Like maybe just do a thumbnail.
Like maybe like it just makes me grumpy that all these other people are doing the same shit. They're watching the whole thing sorta, and they go through some stupid hoops that they jump through to make it work with the fucking footage sorta. And it's like, fine, if they can do it, I can do it.
Yeah,
Maybe, but
I guess.
that's that is an attitude that doesn't lead to less work. Um, I'm looking forward to see where the show goes. I'm hyped. I'm in.
Yeah, they got me. They hooked me.
Yeah. GG's people. The music is really good. I'm just gonna say that again.
I do like the music. It has like it's an eerie, almost X-Filesy kind of thing going on.
It is, but like big and epic.
Yeah, it's like retro X-Filesy, which fits the aesthetic of the TVA.
It does. It fits it very well. I'm just a dopey nerd. I really like it whenever parts of the music like intentionally dips in power, and so it goes out of tune for a second and then back in. I really like it when synths do that shit, because of their power and whatnot used to be a problem and shit, and that would happen. Anyway, that happens sometimes in this show. It's
Right.
cool. Come back next time, everybody. Don't forget your fucking ticket. We'll see you then.
See you later, nerds.